He stood at the entrance of the restaurant holding a gift bag meant for himself. And in that moment, a billionaire realized something terrifying. Money wasn't going to save him tonight. This was supposed to be perfect, his birthday, his city, his rules, yet the words echoing in his ears felt unreal. "I'm sorry, sir, there are no tables available." No tables. For a man who could buy islands, companies, even silence, the single sentence felt like an insult. Victor Hale had arrived exactly at 8. The time he had chosen, the time he expected the world to pause for him. He wore a dark tailored suit that probably cost more than most people's yearly salaries. His watch shimmered under the golden lights of the entrance. Everything about him screamed importance. But the doors didn't open. Inside, laughter spilled across the dining room. Glasses clinked. Life went on without him. Victor smiled, slow and controlled, the kind of smile men use when they believe resistance is temporary. "There must be a mistake," he said calmly. "Check again," the host did twice. "I'm very sorry, sir." "We're fully booked." Victor's jaw tightened. Fully booked wasn't a phrase he heard often. When he did, it usually meant someone hadn't recognized him yet. "It's my birthday," he said, louder this time. The host nodded politely. "Happy birthday, sir." That was it. No rush, no panic, no special treatment. People in the waiting area started paying attention. A few recognized him. Others sensed something more interesting than dessert was unfolding. Victor leaned forward slightly. "I don't think you understand who I am." The host met his eyes, respectful, calm, unmoved. "I do, sir." That answer irritated him more than ignorance would have. Victor reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and typed a quick message. He glanced up again. "Cancel the last reservation, I'll cover their bill, and the next one, and the next." The host didn't hesitate. "We don't cancel." "Reservations." A silence fell, the kind that stretches. Victor laughed once, short, sharp. "Everyone has a price." The host shook his head. "Not here." That's when Victor noticed her. She was standing a few steps away, holding a tray with effortless balance. A black African waitress, young, composed, her natural afro neatly framing her face. She wasn't staring. She wasn't whispering. She was simply waiting. Waiting for her moment. "Sir," she said gently, stepping forward. "If you'd like, I can explain." Victor turned slowly, annoyance flashing across his face. "Explain what? The situation?" "I wasn't talking to you," he replied coldly. She nodded once. "I know, but I work here." He looked her up and down, eyes lingering just long enough to sting. "Then go back to work." "I am at work," she said calmly. That calm unsettled him. Victor exhaled. "Do you have any idea what tonight means to me?" "Yes," she said. "It means a lot to you." "And yet," he snapped, "I'm standing outside like I don't matter." She paused. "I don't think that's what's happening." He scoffed. "Then what is?" "You arrived without a reservation," she replied. "And tonight every table belongs to someone who planned ahead." Victor stepped closer. "I don't plan, I decide." Her eyes didn't drop. "Here, sir, decisions were already made." A few people nearby shifted. Someone whispered. The air felt tight. Victor lowered his voice. "You're being very bold." She smiled faintly. "I'm being honest. That did it." He leaned in, speaking in a foreign language he was certain she didn't understand. His words were sharp, dismissive. He mocked her job, her education, her place. He assumed the humiliation would stay between them. He assumed wrong. She listened, quietly, completely. Then she replied. In the same language, perfect pronunciation, calm rhythm, clear meaning. She repeated his insult, word for word, then added something of her own, something thoughtful, something precise. Victor froze, color drained from his face. Around them, people gasped as realization spread. A man near the door muttered, "Did she just—" She finished speaking and returned to their shared language. "There may be a table opening soon," she said softly. "But respect is never optional here." Victor couldn't move. For the first time in his life, he didn't know what to say. And what he didn't know yet was that this moment would Change more than just his birthday. Because the table he wanted so badly was about to teach him a lesson money had never taught him before. And that is where part 2 begins. The room didn't return to normal after that moment. It couldn't. Victor Hale stood there, surrounded by quiet stares and half-held breaths, his confidence leaking away in real time. The words the waitress had spoken in his own language still echoed in his ears, not because they were loud, but because they were true. He straightened his jacket slowly, buying time. Powerful men hate silence when it isn't theirs to control. A table, he said at last, clearing his throat. You said there might be a table, the waitress nodded. 15 minutes. He hesitated. Waiting was unfamiliar territory. But leaving would mean defeat. And Victor Hale did not walk away from rooms that had witnessed his embarrassment. I'll wait, he said. She gestured toward a small seating area near the bar. Please. Please, the word felt heavier than any insult. Victor sat. The chair felt lower than it should have. Around him, conversation slowly resumed, but he could feel it, eyes sliding toward him, curiosity sharp. People weren't impressed anymore. They were interested. And not in the way he liked. He checked his watch. 1 minute passed. Then 2. The waitress moved effortlessly through the room, serving guests, smiling politely, existing as if nothing extraordinary had just happened. That irritated him more than anger would have. He watched her closely now, the way she spoke to guests, the way she listened, the way people responded to her with warmth, with respect. This wasn't someone pretending. This was someone grounded. Victor wasn't used to being the one observing. At minute 7, the host approached. Sir, your table will be ready shortly. Victor nodded stiffly. And happy birthday, the host added, softer this time. Victor didn't reply. At minute 14, the waitress returned. This way, she said. The table was excellent, center of the room. Perfect lighting. The kind of table Victor always expected. He sat down slowly. She placed a menu in front of him. Their eyes met again. There was no triumph in hers, no smugness. Just professionalism. You speak that language very well, Victor said suddenly. She inclined her head slightly. Thank you. Where did you learn it? University? He blinked. University? Yes. He paused. Here? No, abroad. Something shifted inside him. A crack. Small, but real. You don't sound like a waitress, he said, then realized how it sounded. I mean, I know what you mean, she replied evenly. Another silence. What's your name? He asked. Amina. Amina, he repeated. She waited. You embarrassed me, he said. She didn't deny it. You tried to embarrass me first. The words were calm. Undeniable. Victor leaned back, exhaling. People don't usually talk to me like that, she nodded. I know, and yet you did, yes. Why? Amina looked at him carefully. Because respect doesn't change depending on who's standing in front of you. That answer stayed with him longer than he expected. She asked if he was ready to order. He nodded absently and pointed to a dish without really seeing it. As she turned to leave, he spoke again. It really is your job, isn't it? She stopped, looked back. Which part? Standing your ground? She smiled, not brightly, not politely, but genuinely. No, she said. That part is just who I am. When she walked away, Victor sat alone with his thoughts. He thought about the people who laughed too loudly at his jokes, the executives who agreed too quickly, the doors that opened without question, and now, one door that hadn't. When his food arrived, he barely touched it. Instead, he watched the room. A couple celebrating an anniversary. A young man nervously proposing. A group of friends clinking glasses. He had all the money in the world. And yet, this room didn't belong to him. Halfway through the meal, the manager approached his table. Nervous, respectful. Sir, the manager said, I hope everything is to your satisfaction. Victor looked up. Your waitress? He said. Amina. The manager stiffened slightly. Yes, sir? She's exceptional. Relief flickered across the manager's face. She is, Victor nodded. You should be proud. The manager smiled. We are. When Amina returned to clear the table, Victor looked at her differently now. Not above, not below, just Directly. I owe you an apology, he said. She paused. For my words earlier, he continued. And my assumptions, she considered him for a moment. Thank you. That doesn't mean much to you, does it? It means something, she said. Just not everything, he smiled faintly. Fair. As the night wound down, Victor paid the bill, then added something extra, substantial. Amina noticed. That's unnecessary. It's not for you, he said. It's for the staff, she nodded. They'll appreciate it. He stood to leave. At the entrance, he stopped and looked back at her one last time. Happy birthday to me, he muttered, almost amused. Amina met his eyes. Some lessons arrive right on time. Victor stepped outside into the night air, quieter than when he arrived. He didn't know it yet. But the real impact of that evening hadn't reached him, because weeks later, when he least expected it, he would see Amina again, not as a waitress and not on his terms. That moment is where everything truly changes. Victor Hale walked out into the warm night air, the city lights reflecting off the glass buildings around him. But for the first time in decades, he didn't feel like the center of the world. He had entered the restaurant expecting power, expecting control, expecting obedience. Instead, he had left with something far more unsettling, humility. The streets were alive with celebration. Cars honked in the distance, couples laughed as they strolled past, street vendors called out their wares. And yet, Victor's mind was replaying the image of Amina, the black African waitress whose calm, composed, unshakable presence had toppled his usual authority in less than 15 minutes. He couldn't stop thinking about her eyes, deep brown, confident, unflinching. The kind that told him she knew exactly who she was and what she deserved, back at his penthouse, surrounded by priceless art, sleek furniture, and every luxury imaginable. Victor sat alone on his leather couch. Nothing tasted as sweet tonight, not champagne, not the rare caviar he had planned to indulge in. The memory of Amina's measured words kept coming back, sharp and deliberate, cutting through all his layers of ego. Respect doesn't change depending on who's standing in front of you. He found himself scrolling through social media absent-mindedly, trying to distract himself, but every post seemed shallow now. Every message seemed trivial. The idea of power, of influence, of wealth suddenly felt like a fragile illusion. And there she was, in the restaurant, unaffected, commanding respect without a hint of arrogance. Smiling politely at everyone she served, Victor's assistant had called earlier, expecting a detailed report on the dinner party, but he didn't answer, not because he was too busy, but because he couldn't articulate what had happened. No chart, no spreadsheet, no business decision could explain the weight of the lesson Amina had delivered without raising her voice or trying to dominate him. The next morning, Victor woke up earlier than usual, a rare occurrence. He couldn't eat breakfast, couldn't focus on calls, couldn't bear the emptiness that wealth had usually filled with convenience. And then, as if fate itself were orchestrating it, his phone buzzed with a notification. A news article about the same restaurant, celebrating an anniversary dinner, highlighting the exceptional staff, and mentioning a young waitress praised for her professionalism and courage. He read her name, Amina. His heart skipped a beat. Suddenly, he realized that the lesson hadn't ended with the dinner. It had only begun. The way she had spoken, the way she had held herself, it was a reminder that no amount of money could replace dignity, intelligence, and courage. Every command he had barked, every assumption he had made about her capabilities, every attempt to humiliate, all of it had been irrelevant in the face of her confidence. Victor couldn't help but feel an unfamiliar stir of admiration mixed with guilt. He remembered how he had underestimated her in seconds, assuming that her uniform, her position, her youth, or even her gender gave him authority. And he was wrong, dead wrong. And now he wanted to correct that, not through wealth, not through influence, but by truly recognizing her value. Days passed, and Victor found himself drawn back to the restaurant, not for revenge, not for entitlement, but because he wanted to see her again. He wanted to witness the presence that had changed him. The person who had reminded him that respect was earned and deserved equally, regardless of status or fortune. When he entered the restaurant the second time he felt a strange calm. The staff greeted him politely, and there she was, Amina. She approached with the same composed posture, the same calm eyes, and that faint, confident smile. Victor realized he didn't need to assert dominance anymore. He simply nodded, a silent acknowledgement of her impact. "Good evening, sir," she said. Her voice was calm, respectful, and familiar. Victor paused. "Good evening, Amina," he replied, and for the first time in his life, he didn't feel the need to add anything else. No declarations, no wealth, no power. Her presence alone had spoken volumes. The table he requested was offered promptly, but Victor hesitated before sitting. He didn't need the best table. He didn't need preferential treatment. He just wanted to observe, to learn, to understand the quiet power of someone who had changed his perception of the world in a single night. As he watched Amina serve her guests, interacting with warmth and dignity, he realized that his own life would never be the same. That night, the billionaire had gained something money could never buy: perspective, humility, and respect for strength that comes not from status, but from character. And though he didn't say it aloud, Victor Hale made a silent vow to carry the lesson Amina had imparted into every boardroom, every meeting, and every encounter he would have for the rest of his life. Because he now knew that true power was not in wealth or influence. It was in recognizing and honoring the quiet, steadfast courage in others. That night, as the city lights shimmered around him, Victor Hale finally understood the truth. The richest man in the world could learn the greatest lessons from the simplest acts of humanity. And Amina, the black African waitress, had just rewritten the rules of his life without ever raising her voice. From that day forward, Victor never looked at power the same way again. And Amina continued her work, unaware of the profound impact she had on a billionaire. A lesson that would echo far beyond the walls of a single restaurant. And this was the story of a night when wealth met humility, arrogance met intelligence, and a single act of courage changed everything.